Welcome to the ATP Project. You're with your hosts, Matt and Steve, and we have got a fantastic day. We're going to be talking about the thermic effects of food.
Whoa.
So foods make you hot. What's going on here? The food makes you hot, or what is the thermic effect of food?
What we're going to talk about is, well, people talk about fat burning.
Yes.
Okay, so we've got to burn fuel, we've got to burn calories, and what we don't burn, we store.
Right.
So we're going to talk about today how much we burn through different levels of activity. So we're going to talk about exercise-induced thermogenesis. We'll talk about non-exercise associated thermogenesis. And then we're going to talk about the thermic effects of foods.
Right.
And when we talk about thermic effects of foods, we'll talk about things like spices. We'll talk about macronutrients and how they will regulate our calorie burn.
Yep.
And then we'll discuss calories in, calories out, whether in a calorie surplus or a calorie deficit. And then we'll probably discuss a lot around the grey area about how these numbers are made up and how influential these things really are in the big scheme of things.
Right.
So I think today you're going to be surprised by some of the stats.
Really?
Because I was.
Yes, so was I.
And yeah, look at you. You're pretending that I've never heard about this before. Yeah, you can't play the straight man. You can't even lie straight in bed, Steve.
No.
But anyway, started already.
So 3 minutes in.
Yeah, 3 minutes in. So that's anyway. So anywho. No red pens are needed because Brooko's not actually here today, and she's been muted.
We can play up. So look, I went for a run this morning. I did 12 Ks. So obviously that's got to be burning 80 to 90% of the calories for the day for me. Is that how it works?
Well, your exercise.
Yeah, my exercise.
So let's talk about it. So with your total energy expenditure.
Yes.
So we had a look at a few different papers because you've got to look at lots of different places to get a good understanding because it's all over the shop.
Yes.
The numbers are crazy. So if we have a look at our total energy expenditure, so interesting, starting at our total energy expenditure, when they actually match sex, age, BMI, and all those sort of things together, there is still in one paper it said a 7 to 9% variance in the total energy expenditure when you're matching people for muscle mass and everything. So there's a massive variation already just in your total energy expenditure. So that total energy expenditure typically is made up of our resting metabolic rate, which is 80% of that resting metabolic rate comes from our muscle mass. Just what is and our lean, sorry, I shouldn't say muscle mass, our lean body mass.
Yeah.
So our organs, bones, all that sort of general maintenance and repair, maintaining our body and maintaining our mass as it is.
Moving the hands around.
That's about 80% of that resting metabolic rate is just that. The other 20% is things like what we call non-exercise associated thermogenesis.
That's a neat term.
You think, neat is what they abbreviated as. God, you suck, Steve. I just like...
That's great.
And then anyway, that's neat. So the neat... I feel like a wanker saying it now, Steve. You turned it into something stupid. So the neat, so things like, like I do, I can't talk without using my hands and that sort of stuff. So like things like fidgeting, the way you play your guitar and that sort of stuff. Posture, just maintaining posture, whether you're sitting and standing. What are you laughing at this time?
I just said brilliantly play guitar, and I'm thinking it's not that brilliant.
I went back to the start. Anyway, those sort of things are associated with your resting metabolic rate as well.
Right, so you've named off 90%. So you're saying that my bloody 12-kilometre run, I've got 4 feet.
So we've got 80%
Yep.
your resting metabolic rate.
Yep.
The neat is about 20%
of
your calories. So the neat is things like fidgeting and posture, but that varies so much. I read one paper talking about the neat, and there was a 2,000 calorie variation within the participants. Of what I'm talking about is a 2,000 calories per day difference between how much energy they expended not exercising. So what I mean is people just working and stuff like that. So massive difference. Like if you sit down, and they found out, so the guys that were sitting at work all day, they'd be burning about 700 calories per day from sitting and working and maintaining posture sitting.
Yes.
But the people that stand at their desk to work all day or stand all day were burning the 1,400 calories.
Twice as much.
So twice as much, depending on whether you're sitting or standing, just as your general daily activities. But then they went and did some agricultural farming guys that have spent a lot of time walking and doing stuff as well that they didn't class as exercise.
Yeah.
This was just their job.
Yeah.
Outside of that, they may exercise.
Yes.
Well, they were doing over 2,000 calories. So, and that was just of their daily activity. So your resting metabolic rate, just sitting there at rest, burns a certain amount of your calories.
Yeah.
You're also then busy. That burns other bits of calories and that sort of stuff. Then our exercise, the actual exercise in the studies can go from about 0%.
Yes.
Because if you don't exercise, if you're sedentary, and in the studies they showed 36% of the US population were categorised as sedentary, where they were burning negligible amounts of calories from exercise.
Exercise, yeah.
Elite athletes were burning up to about 30%.
Right.
But they're not farmers either, so they're probably... So this is what I'm saying. The maths, when people come through and say, I'm going to calculate your muscle mass on a machine, and from that I'm going to determine your calorie total energy expenditure from a day based on your basal metabolic rate.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very different to that. It's
So we've covered off, like, take exercise out of the picture because that can be variable and a physical job.
Yeah.
You've accounted for 80% of the calories are burned just for the non-exercise, just sitting there being alive, basically.
Yeah.
And that's 80%.
Yeah.
So your metabolism, and that's varied depending on your metabolism.
So we look and that's why we got interested in the thermic effects of food.
Food, right.
Because if you consider that exercise may be 0, up to 30% in an elite athlete, I think the average was around that 10 to 15% of the calories from but they're people that exercise every day.
Yes.
They had a specific plan.
Yeah.
The people that are exercising for approximately 2 hours per week, it's only 1 to 2%. So there was one study showed that people that were exercising a few hours a week as part of to maintain or improve body composition, it worked out that it's only 100 calories per day is all that it was contributing on average. Not you running like an idiot the way you do. No one's going to chase you that fast, Steve. They just give up.
It's hot this morning too.
Yeah, so 100 calories per day, that's like 1 to 2% of their energy expenditure they attributed to that exercise within that group. So we do a lot of talk about exercise and increase your exercise for your energy expenditure, increase and reduce your calorie intake, and you should be in a calorie deficit, and then all of a sudden the weight will fall off you.
Yeah.
And that's the theory behind the calories in, calories out. The challenge is trying to calculate the maths. Right. And I'll tell you what, when you speak to the experts, you'll know who the experts are. They'll tell you. When you speak to the experts, they'll tell you that they have this ability to use a mathematical equation, working out your muscle, asking you, are you sedentary or active, or pumping in a factor of what are we going to multiply it by, 1 or 1.2 or whatever, to determine your activity levels to work out your calories. And then they would tell me it's a dead set system. Like, mate, it works every time, and I can nail it. I can get someone ready for a comp. I can do whatever, using this system. And it's all based on their genius behind calculating their calorie requirement.
God,
then when you really quiz them, that's cool. So then what happens? And they say, well, then I tell them, how many calories to eat, and I give them their meal plan. I go, yeah, cool. Then what happens? And then so, well, then we monitor and we measure. And I said, yeah, then what happens? And so, well, they get results. They start to improve. And so, well, then what happens? Well, they might plateau off, and then what happens? Well, we tweak it.
Yeah.
And then you go, so what happens to the guys that don't get the results straight away? Well, we know straight away, and we tweak it. Yeah. So the point that I'm getting to is people out there will claim that they know a system or have a plan. But at the end of the day, it's all to do with the individual. Yeah. Everything is just a starting point. And then it's a matter of working with your coach to accurately measure change, to know if you're heading in the right direction, to know whether you need to go up or down with your calories, or up and with calorie intake, or increase your calorie expenditure some way. Wow. But if we consider that our options for increasing calorie expenditure is, first and foremost, maintaining lean body mass.
Yes.
You must maintain that muscle mass because that makes up the largest proportion of your calorie burn.
Of course it does.
if we have that ability to be an everyday athlete, not just a weekend warrior, or not just those people a couple of times, but if you get into a consistent pattern of exercising, then you're capable of burning up to 30%. And so those 30%, not just elite athletes. In fact, elite athletes may burn less because they're better.
Yes.
Like your everyday athlete that's struggling, that's fit. Like, man, seriously, you running a 12Ks versus me running 12Ks, I think I'll burn more.
well, because you're not used to it. For me, it's not. I won't say it's easy, but I can do it and not have a problem with it. What I find amazing is that, we know the benefits of exercise for cardiovascular fitness, mental health, etc., bone health, all that sort of stuff. We're not saying it doesn't exercise. But let's say you went to the gym for an hour a day. Let's just assume that for a second. That's less than 5% of your day.
Yeah.
Exercise less, and the rest of it, as you've said, you're burning a lot of calories then. And then we haven't even really detailed the thermic effects of food, because there's differences to food and when you eat, how much you eat and all that. And it's incredible.
Yeah, but also too, it's very important to understand that whether you're in a calorie deficit or calorie surplus will change absolutely everything.
Yeah.
Because your body's got these metabolic rates. It wants you to keep you where you are because it thinks that's, it's what you made for a reason.
Sure.
So you adapt to the adaptations. So this whole thing is what we call an adaptation game, in my opinion. It's just a matter of chopping and changing and constantly monitoring and coming up with some solutions to manipulate things. Because the moment you get a bit of a plateau, it's your body's adapted to this by either slowing down your metabolism. Yeah. Like I found one paper that showed in a calorie deficit, within 2 weeks, your thyroid levels, your T3, your thyroid gland regulates thermogenesis.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about all these different things that induce thermogenesis. And, I should take a step back. And thermogenesis is the burning of something to generate heat.
Heat, yes.
And typically we want to burn body fat to make heat.
Yes, we do.
And so that's what we're talking about through this. So the thyroid governs that. 2 weeks of calorie deprivation can lower your T3 by up to 65%. And now, interesting thing is, if we look at T3, I better explain that again as well. So the thyroid gland releases T4. T4 converts to T3. And T3 is about 7 to 8 times more potent at stimulating thermogenesis than T4. If your calories are low, you can't afford to be burning, and you can't take the T4 away that's already been released. So your thyroid's pulsing this stuff out, and if your metabolism's going too fast and you're going to burn yourself away, your body will slow you down, but it can't take the T4 away, so it converts the T4 to a thing called reverse T3.
Yes. So
instead of T4 going to T3 and becoming 7 to 8 times more active, T4 can go to reverse T3 and become 1/100th as active. So, the difference between T4 going down one pathway to another is 700 to 800 times the thermogenic effect. So having it going down reverse T3 instead of that, 65% reduction in T3 will shut down the metabolism. Guys coming into comp, they found the same 1 to 2 weeks, testosterone can drop by 75%. So testosterone's trying to tell your body to take these resources and build lean body mass out of it. Lean muscle mass, bone, all that sort of stuff. The thyroid's actually trying to say, let's burn some of this excess, or let's just burn this fuel for energy. That when in a calorie deprivation, they slow you right down. So when you see a lot of these papers that might talk about thermogenic herbs and spices or ingredients, in a calorie excess, it's very easy to induce thermogenesis. In a calorie deficit, it's very hard.
Absolutely.
And in the reality of things, the calorie deficit can slow down the metabolism so much that these herbs and spices that would normally be making people burn more calories, that whole effect can be slowed right down.
It's incredible. And when you slow your metabolism down, these people would suffer fatigue And remember, if you're going in a calorie deficit, it's probably to lose weight, let's say.
Yep.
And they become fatigued, they become a bit depressed, low testosterone, low everything. And you're still trying to nag these people to the gym or go for that run to burn the extra calories. And they're like, oh, I'm so exhausted.
Yep.
It sounds like you're setting them up for sort of failure if they feel that way. Because, you can push through it and, muscle up. But people, at 4 or 5 o'clock in the hour finishing work, they just want to go home and sleep or eat.
And it's a stress.
It's very stressful.
And what happens during stress, especially stress associated with calorie deprivation, is that your body will preserve fat around the internal organs because it doesn't understand what the stress is.
Yeah.
And it doesn't understand how long it's going to go for. And the worst case scenario is you might be immobilized and stuck. And so your body preserves fat around your internal organs for survival mechanisms. And that's how we get that visceral fat in around our organs. And that's the hardest. That's the worst stuff for your heart.
Worst stuff for your heart. And the thing that you talked before about heat, and this is a bit of a biochemical one that we'll put onto the screen for you about where heat comes from when you're burning energy. And you see a little H plus up there, that's otherwise known as a proton. And you can see there it goes through this thing there, we'll call it the respiratory chain, and it makes energy, ATP. It can go down this other pathway and goes into uncoupling protein 1, and that is where you get, as you can see there, heat being produced. So that's where your heat comes from. Now, uncoupling protein, you might see there is free fatty acids boost that. So this is where the ketogenic diet can come in and increase heat production and thermogenesis using fat. Or when you exercise, you liberate free fatty acids and create heat. That's where you get hot from running.
See, so with the thermic effects of food.
Yes.
So what we're looking at is when you eat your meals, the process of digestion, the process of absorption, and then the process of using that fuel.
Yep.
It's not 100% efficient. So you waste energy in that process as well. And they are the calorie burn, that's the calorie loss associated with eating.
Yes.
And that contributes, what did we say, 10 to 15? 8 to 15%.
Yeah, this paper says 10, around 10, but that's the thing. And it depends on what you do with your food. Like this paper, it's called...
So eating more... So this is where this is where things start to get interesting because if 10 to 15% of our calorie burn can come from eating food.
Yeah.
The more we eat, the more we burn?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
So lots of meals a day, you'll burn more fat?
No. There's a paper that I'll get to.
I knew I'd screw you with that paper.
Yeah, this paper is a weird one because what they did with this paper was they put them on an energy-restricted diet and they gave them...
energy-restricted diet? Sorry.
Yep. And they gave them 1 meal a day, which was obviously massive of their, say, 2,000 calories.
So all of their calories in one meal.
One meal, or they spread it out over 6 meals a day. And the people that ate the 1 meal a day lost more weight because the meal induced so much thermogenesis and uncoupled so much protein because of the high fat content.
Yeah, but wouldn't having more of those meals burn more fat?
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But this is what this paper said.
That's wild. So if you think about it, so if I'm in a calorie... This is my theory about that paper. Yes. And this is... anyway.
Don't worry, I'll
contradict myself. Do you hear that noise I just made then? I was trying to say, I'm going to get. And it turned into this, I'm going to get.
Yeah.
This is what I'm thinking anyway.
Yeah.
If we're in a calorie deficit, your metabolism's going to slow down.
Yes.
All right?
Yep,
we know
definitely.
Now, in a calorie deficit, if I eat lots of little meals, my body may never feel like it's in a surplus. Mm-hmm. So you know what I mean? So if I'm in a calorie deficit and then I go through and make sure that each meal is little and small and not satisfying me and not filling me up and not hitting that calorie surplus that my body is looking for, then my metabolism will stay slow.
Yes.
So the lots of little meals in a calorie deficit, each one of those meals would never have enough calories to induce that thermogenesis.
Yeah, and
that's my theory.
That's correct.
As opposed to if I'm in a calorie deficit and then I have a bolus of calories, a big surplus of calories, my body goes, man, this is ample calories for me for my day, especially if I get a couple more meals like this, you know, then it's going to go burn, motherfucker, burn.
Yeah.
You reckon?
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. It increases uncoupling protein 1, 2, and 3, which is unusual. 4 and 5 are in your brain, so we'll just...
So again, it goes back to those calorie stuff, hey?
Yeah, absolutely.
See, there's this other diet, this other paper here, which is interesting because it was kind of explained to me that it was finally a paper that proved that processed foods don't burn as much fat as unprocessed foods. You know. But again, it was one of these bloody papers again where they had these people allowed them to eat other food. Yeah. And all it again showed is that if you eat a lot of processed diet, you don't actually get full and then you want to eat more.
That's right.
So it still shows that if you eat too much, you're going to get fat.
Yeah.
It doesn't show anything about processed versus unprocessed, but it does suggest that perhaps there's things that control our appetite and our regulation based on that. But I don't think those papers are useful. The other things I don't think are useful are these old meta-analyses that we went by, because the reason why we thought multiple meals per day was better for us, because the science always said that. Yeah. But when you go back and look at that science, they were often, what do you call them when they retrospective?
Oh, recall bias.
Yeah. But they're quizzing people. They're asking people shit. And also they're looking at the population and then they're taking assumptions from that. Now, skinny people might want to put on a bit, or they can get away with eating more. So when you go and ask the population, how much do you weigh, how big are you, and how much do you eat, they don't ask you, are you in the process of dieting? Are you trying to prepare for a before photo or your after photo? Yeah. You know what I mean? So the skinny guys eat more and eat more often. Yeah. And in the population, a lot of the people with obesity, some people will be trying to lose weight, so they'll be eating less. There's also a thing where, and we got a reference for it, information bias in health research, definition, pitfalls and adjustment methods, that basically says a lot of fat people lie. Yes. Because also when they ask them, how much did you eat? A lot of them said, I only have a couple of meals a day. I can't understand why I'm so fat. That's exactly. You know what I mean? So the problem is a lot of the studies that actually showed that eating 6 to 9 small meals a day was better for you, because that's what skinny people do. Yes. That was all based on meta-analysis across a population of a population of people that's getting fatter by 6,000 tons or something every year. You know what I mean? Like, absolutely. So they're asking those people, you tell us what we should do. And it's just, so they're asking the same people that have, it's like a ship of fools.
Well, you remember clinic where you talk to an obviously obese person about what they eat, and it's like, that's nothing. How can you be? And you'd sit there and you go, and I have to admit this, I would assume that they were, lying's a harsh word, but exaggerating or promoting the fact that they're looking like they're eating nothing, and they're sort of therefore blaming thyroid or something. And it's not that they're lying; they just don't remember certain things. It's a gambler who doesn't remember losses; they remember wins.
Yeah. Well, you try to quiz them about it, even what you ate yesterday, and sometimes we struggle. But to be fair, Steve, it's also the opposite. There are so many people that we've seen in clinic that are not eating enough.
That's right.
A lot of people are really struggling with their metabolism, and they seriously are only eating a couple of meals a day. And you do look at them and go, "Holy bloody hell!" And you got to tell them to eat more, and they just don't believe you. Yeah, so
it's amazing. Like this paper where they have one meal a day, the conclusion was normal weight subjects were able to comply with 1 meal per day diet. So they
How long was that window of that meal?
That
could I turn that meal into my evening?
Evening is a buffet. Well, no, as long as it matches the calories. Actually, eating longer means you burn more calories. There's another paper in that I'll get to later.
What?
Oh, if you extend your meal out for 1 to 2 hours, you actually get more thermogenesis from the food.
What are you talking about, like chewing more? Or chewing just like more, sitting in between?
Well, just eating slowly. So you're getting more food over a longer period of time.
So if we had, that actually starting to suit my theory. So you're saying I can get home from work, around 5 or so, have a play, do whatever, hang out, a bit of Lego, a bit of swimming action and all that sort of stuff.
All the washing and cleaning and dishes.
And then I can pretty much sit from 7 to 9-ish, and then eat like that whole time. Yep,
as long as the calories
and then go to sleep.
Yeah, and then as long as the calories are matched. This is what this paper says here. This is the thermic effects of food review, and that they actually picked out a number of factors that increased your thermogenesis from food.
Yeah, let's list some of them.
Oh, one of them's age. So the younger you are, the more thermogenesis you get from food.
Yeah, makes sense.
So stuff that. The second one is...
we can't go back there. We're screwed there, sorry.
This one you can change. Physical activity. The thermogenic effects of food is 45% higher in active people.
Wow.
Amazing. Wow. Look at that. I couldn't even believe it myself. And I went, so therefore, if you exercise, this is a way of cheating because you also get more burning from your food. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, wow.
That blew me away. So that's another factor you can change if you want.
Yeah.
And then there's the energy content of meals, and we spoke about that. The higher the energy content, because of the fatty acids that are coming in either from, the fats you eat, it means increased
What about the storage? I know what people are thinking out there.
Yep.
They'll be thinking, if I eat all that amounts of calories in one meal, I'm never going to get a chance to burn it. I'm going to store it.
Or only if you don't eat then for the next X 18 hours.
You're going to burn it.
Yeah, you're going to burn it. Because the thermic effects is higher. So you're actually eating less. Well, you're eating the same calorie.
Getting less calorie yield from your meal.
Yeah, so that's good.
By having a bigger meal over a longer period of time, you get a lower calorie yield.
Correct. And therefore, it's got to be a higher protein meal. And if you can, higher in olive oil, which increases uncoupling protein 1, or high in medium chain triglycerides like coconut oil.
So that's why I get the meat sweats.
Yeah, meat sweats, because the thermogenic from the protein increases your meat sweats. That's what meat sweats are,
That's interesting, Because that's why I used to sweat profusely in them seminars. And I always do those low-carb keto things. Because remember, we always say you're smarter with ketones.
Ketones, yeah.
So I'd always go high-fat, high-protein before I did seminars, and I could never work out why I was so sweaty.
That's
and hot, and it's the meat sweats.
Well, because meat is very difficult to store as calories. I mean, you don't store amino acids you store fat. But to get to amino acids to fat, which are chemically, one's an amine group, which is NH2.
So protein, I'm so sorry, man.
That's
I keep interrupting. So keep finishing your amine group thing.
Well, amines, like amino acids, are extraordinarily difficult to turn to fats.
Yeah.
It's a pain in the ass biochemically. So you can almost eat an unlimited protein without storing it as fat.
Yeah, wow.
So your uncoupling proteins will go through the roof.
Yeah.
You'll get thermogenic, you'll sweat a lot. You'll get the meat sweats.
Yeah.
And so it's very difficult to make fat from. And this is where Atkins in his famous book in 2003 said, you can eat unlimited proteins, and I don't agree with that, but unlimited proteins and you'll struggle to put fat on.
Yeah, wow. So the harder it is to digest, the more complex. I remember people used to say, don't eat pork, it sits in your stomach for 3 to 4 hours or something. It's just like, that sounds good.
That's excellent if you're trying to lose weight.
So now, let's think about this then. So the harder it is to break down the protein, the less calorie yield you're going to get from that meal.
Of course.
So things like highly processed and refined whey protein isolates or amino acids or something like that, because they're pre-digested and easy to absorb, you're going to get a more calorie yield from that than something that was incorporated into a meal.
Absolutely.
Fat is really hard to digest and break down.
It is.
But then again, it does yield 2.5 times the amount of calories per gram.
Yep, 9 compared to 4.
So you'll find it's probably not 2.5 times harder to break down than protein, which is why protein, for thermic effects of food, protein is king.
Yes, protein is king, and also certain fatty acids increase uncoupling protein, which increases heat as well. So it depends on the type of fat. So if you have the saturated fats, like the medium chain triglycerides, they're very good for you, or monounsaturated fats. Keep away from polyunsaturated fats like vegetable oils.
What's olive oil?
Olive oil is mono.
Yep.
It's oleic acid if you want the chemistry. It's an omega-9. Anyway, so if you can have those fats that are sort of contrary to a lot of people think. I don't know if people out there are into lots of vegetable oils, but they're the ones that can help you put calories on. So
it's weird, huh?
It's weird.
So they're the ones we're all taught to eat.
And if you want a percentage, 34% higher in the medium chain triglyceride group. So you get a thermic effect that's 34% higher in the medium chain triglyceride group.
And a lot of the data talking about how to get the right levels of fat in your macros, it always seems to go back to around about 30%.
Yep.
That 30% seems to be about the right level of fat as part of your macros.
Yeah.
And then basically we maintain that protein at usually 1.2, or some of these papers up to 2.3 grams per kilo body weight, and then they basically cut back some of the carbs to manipulate the calories.
There's our mate that we follow.
Bill.
Bill.
I can love Bill Campbell. He's coming back on. I was chatting to him yesterday.
Oh, good.
He actually sent me through some really cool case studies that he's done on bodybuilders prepping for competition, showing significant reductions in thyroid, like within only a couple of weeks of calorie deprivation. But it took ages to recover. So he actually went and he calculated the changes in the hormones as part of a cutting prep phase for a bodybuilding show. But then he went and did the recovery as well to show once calories go back in, how long did it take for these hormones and everything to pick back up? So we'll supply all these references as part of the whatever that thing is.
You want some more? You want some more factors?
Bring it on. Factors.
Processed versus unprocessed foods. 46% higher from unrefined foods from thermogenic effects.
What?
So if you have a processed, say, white bread, compared to a complex, say, bowl of oats, same calories, you'll get 46.8% higher yield from the unprocessed foods.
Yield of what? Energy?
Energy produced, thermogenic effects.
Oh, thermogenic effects. Yeah. So you're saying that we burn 30-something, 40% more
46%
burning.
Higher. Yeah, burning.
From the unprocessed.
And in this study, they just meant unrefined grains compared to refined grains.
Well, remember we did the gut stuff. Yeah. Remember we looked at the gut, we looked at the difference between firmicutes and bacteroidetes things.
Yep.
And the firmicutes could increase calorie yield from increase your calorie yield from your food by about 20%.
Yeah.
So how interesting. I think when we talk about these unprocessed foods versus processed foods, and I think when we talk a lot of these herbs and spices, all the green teas and the capsaicins and the resveratrols and the peppers and then the gingers, all that sort of stuff, they have another thing in common other than the fact that they're spicy and heat you up. They also reduce the firmicutes and support the bacteroidetes that will reduce your calorie yield and increase your calorie burn.
It's amazing, isn't it? And I've got a big...
So that's how a lot of these things may be doing it, because when you, in isolation, if you look at the effects that these herbs and spices may have on, stimulating, increasing energy expenditure, it's negligible, really. And it's not that much. Yeah. But it's the bigger picture. It's when you see these studies where they show less rebound weight gain, more takes longer to get into that starvation mode. Yeah. Things like GLP-1, that things like yerba mate and that are associated with, and a lot of them are good fat loss herbs that have got a reputation for it. A lot of them work through this GLP-1. And that regulates your, delays starvation mode. Yep. So if you're going into a calorie deficit and you've got lots of herbs and spices, whole foods, unprocessed, lots of really good polyphenols and everything all through your diet, it's going to delay the starvation mode. It's going to increase your calorie expenditure and reduce calorie yield by regulating microbiome, by looking at your liver, working on these receptors in through your gut.
You're actually hitting the nail on the head, and the rest of it talks about that. One other study in 1985 found palatability. If the food is more tasty to you, you increase TEF, thermogenic effects of food.
Really?
Palatability, 1985 study.
You kind of get a bit excited about it.
I went, oh, good. Yeah. It said that suggested that palatability could increase sympathetic activity, thus increasing TEF. So thermogenic activity because of the adrenaline release. Like, I'm excited about eating this steak or whatever it is you're eating. Yeah. That helps, believe it or not.
I ate that. I ate a steak like that the other night.
Yeah, I love steak.
Man, we got these expensive Wagyu thing. Because I knew I'd butcher the slow. I suck at this slow cooking thing. I'm trying to get It's all right. I mean, it's good. It's okay, but it's not as I'm imagining it. And then we did this Wagyu the other night. It wasn't the middle of the night. We're very drunk. It was still the nicest thing I've ever eaten in my life.
Oh, Wagyu.
I'm considering going plant-based now.
What?
Well, I've peaked.
Oh, right. Okay.
I don't think. That's what Vanessa taught me that.
Single large meal opposed to small frequent meals is better for thermogenesis after meals. We've talked about that.
Don't you have a paper saying the opposite as well?
Yeah, I have later.
It's another one of them meta-analysis.
Yeah, it's a meta-analysis
They went and said to these people, hey, skinny people, how many times do you eat? Yeah. Oh, well, there you go. Fat people, how many times do you eat? Oh, well. Say no more.
The problem with that 1 meal a day business is because of humans. Humans go, all right, I want you to eat 1 meal a day. And they'll go, sure, no worries. They'll eat the big meal. And then 8 hours later, they go, I'm starving. I've got to eat something else. Yeah. And they'll go and eat something else.
Yeah.
And that's because they're humans. It would work for animals, for example, because they've got diets that are controlled. And you say, and vets will say, just feed them once a day.
That's true.
Yeah. And that's because, dogs, for example, have a shorter digestive system, so they should be able to tolerate more, but they have higher protein in their meals. Yeah. So you can do that.
Do your dogs make eye contact when they poop?
Yeah, my old dogs used to when they were alive.
My dog does all the time. You walk around and go, where's Matilda? You look over and then she's just like kind of staring at you.
Mate, I thought it was because they're vulnerable during that time. And
so they just stare at you.
They just have to look at
They make it weird.
It's just weird.
Just going, I'm feeling vulnerable right now.
God.
I'm going to make it weird. Just stare at you while I lay this barker's nest. God.
Here's another one. A decrease in thermogenic effects of food during an irregular meal plan.
Yeah. I was reading something about that. Tell us more about that.
So if you have your regular meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, if have an irregular style like whatever's happened, then that decreases the thermogenic effects of food quite significantly, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
That was a randomised crossover trial where they disrupted people's lifestyle and told to eat different times. And the thermogenic effect dropped. That was very interesting.
So the people that exercise regularly and eat regularly tend to have better thermic effects of their food.
Correct. So exercise only comes.
And you know what's interesting about that too is we often have these discussions around digestion and everything as well. Your body, you can't do everything at once. It's so important to sit down to eat, and it's so important to have some sort of a little ritual or tradition or something that allows your vagus nerve to know that you're about to eat. You know, whether that's a soup entree or salad entree, or whether it's saying grace or positive affirmations or breathing or whatever it may be, the people that have the ability to switch out of the sympathetic nervous system and work mode, thinking, hurry, worry, money, and into that digestion nervous system around mealtime, and that could be just done through regular system and routine. Your body will know this is the time.
6 o'clock dinner.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So we're starting to see that some really cool patterns here. So the people that exercise regularly with a certain amount of intensity, because, I mean, and I'm going to be honest here, I do this exercise that's more for rehab, but to be honest, man,
tough.
Yeah, no, but it's not as tough. I mean, when I'm reading through these NEATs, I would be thinking mine would be more likely to be contributing to my non-exercise associated thermogenesis than my exercise because of the intensity that I put into it. And I'm not saying that, so you say, no, Matt, you try hard. I'm saying it's just reality, because it's all about posture. It's almost like meditation. Yeah. And, you know, I only shower because I have to, because I just, you know, feel like I haven't been to the gym long enough. But it's not because I've worked up a massive sweat. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Amazing. And the last factor that they came up with was meal.
About that at all? Did you see that?
Yeah.
Amazing.
No, it's like
now back to what I was saying.
You've told me what you've told me.
I haven't told everyone, Steve. It's not all about you, Steve.
I couldn't do what you do in the gym.
He's only said it. Oh, well, I could easily do the 12K run before it. I just choose not to. Yeah. Where are we up to? Sorry. So what was the last thing you interrupted me to say?
The last thing you can do.
Interrupted my interruption?
And is to eat. And the longest they did, you get a 32% increase in thermogenic effects of food if you eat, and you're going to love this one, for 180 minutes compared to fast eating.
God. You got no idea how bad I feel. Like, I sit there at night with my kids going, just eat your meal. I'm just sitting there, just eat. Like, just stop talking. Stop. What the hell? Just eat. You know? And it's just this thing, like, hurry up, will you? Like, and I eat like someone's chasing me. Yeah. And I've nailed that thing. Yeah. And then the rest of the families, they're savouring it. And then I'm so scared of the wife that I sit there to the kids going, just fucking eat. She's going to lose her shit.
Yes.
Just eat. You know what I mean? Well, really. And the same with that. We did that one with John Bertrand, the precision nutrition dude. Yep. And he was saying the same thing. He said people that take, and he said one of the main reasons in the quizzes as well for people that struggle with obesity is that they eat too quickly. And that their first lessons for the first few weeks is to learn to eat slower.
That's right.
So seriously, so if I spend all night eating.
The one meal, not.
And just, one meal all night. Like, it's a big one. And then it's going to be like all the macros.
Yes, all of them. All of the macros.
How many calories do you eat? All of them. And then I'll go to bed. Yeah. I'm going to have like this massive serotonin. Yep. Oh, hang on. I found another paper that said we burn more energy, so we should be doing that massive meal in the morning.
Yes. That's breakfast feeding.
Bullshit. That's bullshit. I mean, what would you can't go to sleep after breakfast.
You can't. I
will be starving at night.
These are our favourite group to study, the Seventh-day Adventists. Yeah, no, they're just very regimented, and you know they have a specific way of eating.
Kellogg's.
So, it was published in the Journal of Nutrition. So it says our results suggest that relatively healthy adults eating less frequently, no snacking, consuming breakfast, and eating the largest meal in the morning may be effective methods for preventing long-term weight gain.
But I'm talking about eating one meal now.
Yeah.
So they're saying I should have one massive meal in the morning.
Yeah. And if that's
how would you sleep? There is no way I could sleep without eating first. It'd feel like my stomach would think my throat had been cut. It'd be like...
I know, it's bad. They say that eating breakfast and lunch 5 to 6 hours apart and making the overnight fast last 18 to 19 hours may be a useful practical strategy. I don't know if it's useful or practical, starving for 18 hours. I mean, if you can and you're trying to lose weight, good luck to you.
But if we burn, and this is all based on the fact that we burn more calories in the morning.
Yeah, we do.
Why?
Cortisol.
So we get the cortisol surge, and it's going to be breaking everything down. It's catabolic, and it's going to be converting things to energy.
And also cortisol, but also with cortisol, you get adrenaline, noradrenaline release to wake you up, to physically wake you. Remember, cortisol doesn't wake you up.
So wouldn't that be the best time to not eat, because that's the time we're going to be burning our stored?
That's another paper coming up.
And then if we... cool. So at night, this is what I'm imagining. We have big feed at night. We get our insulin, we get our glucagon, all that sort of stuff. All the different PPAR receptors are activated.
Yep,
We'd be sweating. I get my meat sweats and all that sort of stuff all happening at night. Then I get a big surge of serotonin because I've eaten all my calories. And then I go into a nice deep sleep. And then while I'm asleep, all these insulins, everything's going to be dropping. And as my blood sugar drops somewhere through the night, there's going to be all my glycogen that's stored through my liver and muscles that it's going to be able to tap into, and then it's going to get and start burning some of that fat. We're going to get that hepatothermic effect. We strip the fat out of my liver because that's where it's available, and that's where it's measuring all these sugars and stuff like that. And then I get up in the morning. Wouldn't I, when I get up in the morning, be burning? Like, wouldn't I be, that would be the time of the day where I've got ample fuel stored and I don't have all these signals coming through from a meal to say carbs, fat, go a different direction. So that'd be the best time. Wouldn't breakfast be the most important meal of the day to skip?
Well, that's another way of looking at it. But remember, these guys didn't eat since lunch the day before.
Wankers. God, they'd be starving.
And then they can sleep because then they don't feel the hunger. And this is the way they did it, and it worked for them. But there are other studies showing...
You'd have to go to bed at 7 o'clock at night, wouldn't you?
Well, they probably do,
No, it would.
I don't know what time they went to bed.
Not allowed to eat.
Yeah, nothing to do, is there? But that's how they figured it out and worked really well because... All right. Now do you want another study that contradicts all those other ones?
Yeah, bring it.
All right.
Oh, you brought
this
it.
This is
Tell us about
meta-analysis published, nutrition reviews.
Meta-analysis, you say?
Yes, meta-analysis. And it said, and I'll quote this, feeding frequency was positively associated with reductions in fat mass and body fat percentage, as well as an increase in fat-free mass. So the more feeding, the more fat reductions you have. That's a positive association. So if you eat more times...
Were they in a calorie deficit or surplus?
There was a meta-analysis, so they just looked at one aspect of it.
Ad libitum.
Ad libitum. That's right. So the ad libitum eating people. Now, the reason why I think this works is because if you say to people you can sort of eat when you want but just have small meals, then they're less likely to overeat. If you say to someone, this is the one meal you're having throughout the day, they'll sit down there and rub their hands and go, right, I'm going
to
nuts.
Nail this.
Yeah. But if you say, look, you can eat as many times as you want, and because they're humans too. Yeah. If they're eating a lot of times a day, they're not going to go. They're not going to be starving ever. So they're not going to be likely to go past the bakery and gorge.
Yeah, right.
So there's this human factor here.
Oh man, did you know Sizzler just shut down in Australia? If only they knew this.
Yeah.
If Sizzler had their hands on this sort of paper, they'd tell people just settle in. From 7 to 9 at night every night.
Yeah, just eat.
You're finely tuned athletes. You
exactly. Wow. So isn't that interesting?
That's interesting.
Because of the human thing. Now, if you could tell a human like let's say they lived in a communist country and said, okay, humans, you're only eating once a day, then they'll probably lose weight, even if they ate all their calories at once.
Is that right?
Because, that was those people say, and you're eating less. But
I wonder how much calories we could eat. We've got to do this experiment.
Can you include...
I wonder how many calories we could just... No, I'm talking whole food.
All right, so
like
I can't
healthy
drink
food.
A cup of fat.
No, don't cheat.
Oh, okay.
No, we're talking healthy food. Like, I'm talking meat and veg. I mean, that's what I call healthy food. No, meat, fruit and veg, nuts, seeds, eggs, cheese or something like that.
Yes.
And
how many calories?
And then you go, I wonder how much I could eat.
There is a guy called Randy something Sortel or something, and he's a
I don't know why I
eater.
giggled so much about that. Something about that Randy. Oh, Randy.
Randy, American competitive eater, quite a famous one. He's on
A famous competitive eater.
Competitive eater. He's a Google
Called Randy.
He's called Randy.
He wears
Randy
a cap,
something.
doesn't he?
He does.
It's a
wear
trucker's cap.
And it's called
So
Atlas.
how did I know?
And he always goes Atlas. I'm Randy such
What?
and such Atlas.
Atlas.
And he does a bicep curl. That's his famous thing. And he eats like up to 6 pounds.
Atlas.
He calls himself Atlas. So Google Randy Atlas competitive eater. You'll find him.
Okay.
Anyway, he sits down and eats like 6 pounds of steak. Now, a pound is about, let's round it, 400 grams or about half a kilo. A quarter pounder, the burger, is 100 grams of meat.
Yeah.
So he can eat 60 of those patties in one sitting. Now,
How many calories would that be?
Well, I'm just doing the math.
Hurry up, Steve.
If
Go.
there's 25, 100 calories, probably 100 calories, probably 6,000. 100 grams of meat has 25% protein, and 25 times 4, which is calories, is 100 calories per patty. Times 60.
This is the boring part of the podcast.
6,000, yeah. So,
forget it. Move on. Fuck you, Randy.
So
dickhead.
Randy can eat 6,000 calories in one sitting.
I bet he can.
And possibly more if it's like a pizza and concentrated thing. So there you go. You can there's a challenge for you
Bloody
guys.
Randy. Well, I'm going to do that challenge. I'm going to find out if I was just to sit down and eat a shitload.
Yeah.
How many calories that would be? I'm going to sit there and weigh it and measure it and go, because I know, like, you know, when you haven't eaten all day, your tummy shrinks.
Yeah.
And then you're starving, and then you eat a little bit, and you're full as a fat lady's shoe, and you're only halfway through your meal.
Yeah.
And then you like wait a little bit, and then you get hungry again. I wonder, hey, and also too, we know that the shrinking and the stretching of the stomach regulates a lot of hormones, the ghrelins and the leptins and neuropeptides and cholecystokinin and all these sort of things are regulated by the stretch receptors and that sort of stuff as well. So if your stomach shrinks, it'll be telling you you're hungry and you'll be more likely to have better digestion and that sort of stuff. Or is that, does a shrinking stomach have to be part of it? If you spend a lot of your time of your day with a small stomach...
Yeah, well, that's what gastric banding is. They put a band around your stomach and they shrink your stomach physically.
And it reduces your appetite.
Yeah, reduce your appetite theoretically.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the studies show that it does work for some people and not for others because the bit that's not banded stretches because they eat like a normal person. And so it typically doesn't work, these operations, but sometimes it does.
A lot of them it does, hey. Geez, I've seen some people that have busted the ring out, eaten, the band.
Yeah.
You know, the ring around the stomach.
Oh, right. Okay.
Oh, my gosh, Steve.
So
disgusting.
Quite terrible. Do you want to know some other physiological effects if you eat less times a day?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a regular eating pattern including breakfast consumption, consuming a higher proportion of energy earlier. This is a different study than one I said earlier.
Hang on, you just mumbled. So that
okay. A regular meal pattern including breakfast consumption, consuming a higher proportion of energy early in the day, reduced meal frequency, about 2 to 3 per day, and regular fasting periods at night in this case, may provide physiological benefits such as reduced inflammation, improved circadian rhythm, increased autophagy, which is fat burning, and stress resistance, and the modulation of the gut microbiome. So fasting was good too. There is another thing we can do. We can brown our fat too if we want to.
What?
We can brown our fat. That's also
God,
good.
You're disgusting.
No,
it's called bright. It's called Brighten. Because when you got the white adipose tissue to make it brown, they say it's called brightening it. But it's spelled Brite because they combined brown and white and made it bright.
And then
I'm not even joking. You Google bright,
bright,
Brite, and it's talking about turning white fat brown by making it bright.
Right, doesn't make sense.
It's actually beige.
Yeah. Well, they in this paper they call it beige adipose tissue.
There you go.
So that's true. And there's lots of foods you can do that, like capsaicin. And you mentioned capsaicin before.
Yep.
So that's good for thermogenesis.
Yeah, capsaicin is one of the real ones for the thermogenesis.
Oh, we should say what browning fat is. All it means is we're adding mitochondria to fat so it can access itself as energy. It's got its own energy supply.
So the white fat is pretty much just storage of fat blobbles.
Yep. It's
good for insulation and buoyancy.
Yep.
But otherwise brown fat is active.
Yes.
And that's the one that's liberating heat. Often you'll find the brown fat in around the kidneys and stuff as well, which is why when we shiver and we get those effects there to generate that heat.
And we're born with a lot of it. So kids have a lot of brown fat.
Yep.
And that's why little terrorists can run around in swimming pools and all that sort of stuff and not get cold. And you think, aren't you cold? No.
Freaks, aren't they?
Freaks. And so kids are weird. And so
my kids have been swimming for like last month or so.
Yeah, and
then they're sitting there and I say, how's the water? And they go, no, it's really nice. Too cold for you though. And I said, absolutely, I'm not an idiot.
That's because they've got brown fat.
And blue lips. Yes. But no, it's true. Hey, I cannot believe how much they can tolerate that. And really old people, they're all rugged up and stuff like that. That's so they really struggle with generating the heat.
Well, their metabolism slows down dramatically because of what we said earlier.
So, peppermint, the menthol. So there's a lot of things with menthol, not just peppermint. But you know how it has that sensation that when you have it and the air feels cold?
Yep.
Well, it does that all through our body. So peppermint menthol has this ability to trick our nerves into thinking we're cold. Yep. And then it does that thermogenesis through shivering to try to heat up the body. And a lot of it, when you do peppermint orally, it does that via the liver.
Yeah.
And again, that's the hepatothermic stimulate a anyway.
Yeah, and the way it works is there's long-term administration of menthol in mice has been shown to enhance uncoupling protein 1, which is that heat generation thing from fat. Yeah. So you're absolutely right. So capsaicin does it, resveratrol does it as well. That also browns your fat, which is good.
CLA is a good famous one for
CLA is good too. I'll get to that in a sec. Turmeric does. Turmeric browns your fat. Green tea, the epigallocatechin gallate in green tea.
So a lot of these polyphenols and that sort of stuff. I tell you what's weird, a lot of these things are also, we'd call them antioxidants.
Yes.
But isn't the process of the fatty acid oxidation, would antioxidants inhibit fatty acid oxidation, considering all these antioxidants are always shown to have beneficial effects in obesity and reduced body fat?
No, because the oxidation of fats goes down a chain called electron transfer chain, and that's regulated by the body. So it's a regulated oxidation.
Yeah, right.
Because oxidation is just loss of electrons. So
just building yourself up with antioxidants is not going to stop fatty acid oxidation.
No, because green tea and turmeric is potent antioxidants. So, no, absolutely.
Because a lot of people will bag natural medicine or herbal medicines for fat loss because they'll say it's an antioxidant and that's going to stop fatty acid oxidation, which is the process of fat burning.
Wow. Okay, because these papers say that all these natural medicines...
And then they'll say, that paper doesn't mean anything because antioxidant, pro-oxidant, they cancel each other out. It doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way at all.
Good.
So because, as you said, like the oils increase PPAR, which is the PPARs regulate uncoupling protein. That's how PPARs activate energy.
And then the PPAR, really, your macro split will determine. So PPAR receptors will determine whether you're burning sugar or fat. Yes. But a lot of those are regulated by what you're actually eating. So surprisingly, certain lots of oils will activate the PPAR receptors that stimulate fat burning.
Yep, which is why a ketogenic diet, high-fat diet.
Exactly, and which is why having oil-based things pre-workout, even though you're giving them a bit of oil, intuitively you're thinking, well, I'm trying to burn fat, why would I eat fat?
Yes.
Well, but their process of eating the fat pre-workout is tricking your body into thinking fat is your preferred fuel source right now.
Exactly.
Not tricking the body, but letting it know this is all that's available. Interesting thing about the modified starches and sugar alcohols and that sort of stuff, the body still thinks they're a carb.
Yeah, I know.
So coming through, your body will say, oh, we've got some carbs available, let's burn that. Negligible effects in the big scheme of things for someone that's an athlete or someone that's burning, but maybe these little 1% and 2% changes every day is enough to make a difference in certain people.
If you lose 1% to 2% of your body fat over a year, you're doing all right. You just keep doing that for 10 years, you're going to be quite lean eventually.
10% less.
So you hit on something good there about eating fat, because remember for years we've been told to have a low-fat diet.
Yeah.
And obesity has skyrocketed during that period.
Yeah, exactly.
So we know something's wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
And we now know that carbohydrates turn into the bad fats, the palmitic acids. And so not eating fat doesn't increase thermogenesis. It suppresses our metabolism. And we get, fatigue. We don't want to go to the gym. We've got no energy for anything. And it causes massive disease throughout the body. And this is a huge problem.
This is kind of spinning me out a little bit, because what I was expecting to hear in this podcast and was expecting to read, prepping for it, was I was expecting it to say that if we eat high protein and unprocessed foods, just high fiber, just gritty stuff, full of sticks and twigs, and then basically protein, and we do that lots of little meals all the time of that, I figured that would be the best way. But the new research is suggesting that we've made a lot of assumption about the multiple meals per day based on meta-analysis and population studies. The data is showing that you can get away with eating less meals a day with more calories in those meals. The unprocessed and processed stuff hasn't seemed to show that much unless we're in the calorie stuff, but indirectly through all the microbiome, through all the PPAR receptors, through these other mechanisms, they're very important. So the freaky thing is having hard to digest food less often, but more of it.
Yes,
seems to be the key.
It is,
because we got to trick that. So we got to. So we're now looking at windows of opportunity, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
So we're looking more at, rather than trying to space these calories out for a day so you're not overeating, it's more important to trick the body into thinking you have ample calories at certain times of the day, so it doesn't store them. So it doesn't shut down your metabolism. You're better off tricking your body into thinking, we got a heap of food here, heaps, burn it, use it.
Yep.
We have an abundance. And then you burn that. And then the rest of the time, when you're not eating, your metabolism's going to maybe slow down a touch in between, but you're still going to burn stuff because you're not eating.
Correct.
Where if you were to go insufficient calories total over a day, and then every time you eat was contributing insufficient calories per every meal, to put you in a calorie deficit, that is more likely to shut down your metabolism.
Of course.
Because your body never gets that opportunity to celebrate the abundance of calories.
Well, yeah, or the body recognises you're just having so much food, it's got to burn some off because it just can't handle it.
Yeah.
And so, you're right. And the only caveat to that is humans. And if you can say to a human, okay, fast for 18 hours, and they go, okay, well, good luck with that. Yeah. And if you can, do it.
Interesting, though, because I think, again, I don't think I could do it at night. Well, this is me, personally. This is all going back to me. But I think it would be possible to have a massive feast at night, providing it's not too high in carbs, because I know if I feast up on carbs at night, I wake up in the morning fanging. I'm starving, and I need to eat. It's like I've had this big hypoglycemia through the night because I've eaten so much sugar. So what goes up must come down and a little bit further, But if I was to have a big meal at night of meats and proteins, good fibre, good vegetables and that sort of stuff and fill myself up, I reckon I can quite easily skip lunch and breakfast.
Yeah.
When I get around to that, when I'm training and all that sort of stuff in the morning, I get around that 11 o'clock I'm pretty hungry. But I reckon if I could get through that, I could survive the afternoon. I reckon I could eat this at night.
All right, so let's say you finish eating at, say, 7 p.m.
Why? I'm probably not going to start. I'll get kids, mate. I'm more likely to start around 7.
All right, so you finish at 8?
No, 9. I'm doing 2 hours of eating.
All right, so that's 2,100 hours.
Multiple courses.
And then you're going to eat at, say, you said 11. We'll just do this sum here. Okay, so you got 4 plus 11 is 15 hours of fasting.
So all I got to do is push that out to 2 o'clock.
Oh, this out to 2 o'clock?
No. What are you saying, 18 hours? So if I go to bed at 9...
Yeah, you stop eating at 9.
You stop eating at 9.
Yeah.
And that's straight to bed, so I don't eat again.
So that's 3 hours till midnight. And then you can have... You said you'll eat at 11. That's 3 plus 11 is 14 hours of fasting. Or 15, I don't know about that one. So therefore, that's 14 hours of fasting. They say 17 to 18. If you can drag that out or drag that backwards a bit...
I push lunch out.
Push lunch out to what time?
I'm going to do 2 or 3.
Well, let's just say 2. We don't go nuts here. That's 14, so you add another 3 on there. And so add another 3 on there. That's 17 hours of fasting. That matches.
But hang on, aren't I eating everything between 7 and 9?
Yeah. But your fasting time is 17 hours, and so your eating time is between 2 and 9 p.m., which is 7 hours.
So I can eat for 7 hours?
Yes, as long as the calories...
As long as it's all one meal?
Well, you can have 2 meals.
Now I'm confused, Steve. So So what I'm thinking is, we're back to this theory of eating 1 meal a day.
Okay.
So if I was to eat between 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock at night every day, and then not eat anything else all day,
could you do it?
I reckon I could.
All right, but 2 meals a day is
massive asshole.
Yeah, but two meals a day is okay.
have to warn
The
everyone.
Seventh-day Adventists have said 2 meals a day is fine. So if you have a meal at 2:00, you'll be starving. Have a big one, a protein meal, and then have one at night like that again.
What if I just had a little meal in there?
Yeah.
And then massive. I'm basically excited for is this evening feast.
Yes.
Just all night eating.
Yeah. 2 hours.
Until I fall asleep.
Yeah. That's
All
it.
right.
Give it a go. I mean, if you want.
I don't think I'm going to be able to get up and run 12 Ks.
You don't have to.
In the morning. Okay.
It's
done.
Just because remember the exercise, the calories contribute by exercise, not a hell of a lot anyway.
No,
you just want to keep
you've
your
seen
lean,
me exercise.
No, but you just keep your lean muscle mass on. Just work your muscles.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to run. I mean, it's good cardiovascular.
I'm going to get a scissors tattooed on my arm.
Dude, that's funny.
So I don't ever have to
tell
run.
the people why you're going to get scissors.
I just did, so I don't have to run. Just
running with scissors.
tell the people.
It's just running with scissors is a bad idea. As a
It
kid,
is.
You know. I don't know. I mean, people are listening there and they're going, oh, but let's say they're the opposite. So they have a massive breakfast and then have a good lunch and then don't eat for the rest of the day and go to sleep early.
Freaks.
Freaks, but they could do that.
You'd have the weirdest dreams about eating.
There you go. And then, but then they can look forward to waking up and having their
Massive meal.
Yeah, massive breakfast.
When you want to go to sleep after that?
I don't know. I feel all right after a massive breakfast. But it depends on the individual. But there are other little tricks you can do. Olive oil is very good too for uncoupling protein. Another paper there. Another one on capsaicin, but we'll skip over that one. There are 10 top foods for thermogenesis here. These are all referenced from PubMed. So
Some punk.
Some punk wrote it.
You stole someone's blog, Steve.
I did. I should.
No, don't talk
Charlie
about them.
Wardrop.
No, just throw that away. Do your own work or forget about it.
He mentions fatty fish, turmeric.
Don't actually. I don't want to know. Don't tell me about Charlie.
Charlie.
I don't care about Charlie.
All right.
What is your thoughts, Steve?
Well,
tell me your thoughts. What does your blog say?
My blog? Well,
tell us your favourite 10 foods for thermo.
Well,
throw that paper. Throw Charlie's paper. No cheating.
I only got 5 out of the other one.
It's cool the way that did that.
I know, that was pretty.
So remember that thing? Remember that when I used to watch kids shows and then the dude would just pull out the thing?
Yeah.
The
rabbit.
It's really bad, doesn't it?
Bad.
The paper out of the typewriter and it would go.
Yeah.
That's what you just did.
It was perfect, wasn't it?
Yep.
I won't do it again. It'll never happen.
No, all right, carry on now. Your top 10.
Top 10 foods for thermogenesis.
Coffee.
Yes. How did you know?
Because I'm drinking one. I'm sweating a little.
Coffee because it's got caffeine in it, blocks adenosine receptors,
phosphodiesterase inhibition,
all that
makes you sweat.
Cyclic AMP production. It's good. So that's a great food you can have. The capsicum foods have some spice in.
Yep. So capsaicin would be chilies, capsicum, all your other peppers.
Yep.
And that sort of stuff. Yep.
Ginger for uncoupling proteins.
Yep. Ginger.
So ginger's good. Turmeric, of course.
Yep.
Fats like olive oil. That directly uncouples your one protein, so that burns your fat directly.
Yep.
Creases heat.
Yep.
The other one,
pomegranate seed oil, and is brilliant with the punicic acid for that.
Punicic acid.
By the PPAR gamma receptors.
And oily.
CLA.
Yep. Oily fish as well. So any of the oils will say will simplify.
Yeah,
that.
oils.
Yeah, high fat diet.
Yeah. So high fat and protein.
Fats. Yes. Particularly the saturated fats.
And the protein foods
will
be more thermogenic than a protein supplement.
Correct, because they're harder
to break down.
I never could understand why people say, it sits in your tummy for 5 hours.
Because I was always hungry and I was like, genius.
Yeah.
I started actually wrapping pork in chewing gum. So it would live there for ages and I'd never get hungry. No, I was joking. See?
Wow, I don't know.
Sarcasm is next level where people think I'm an idiot.
Surprise me.
That's me. Taking it next level.
Eggs are excellent too for thermogenesis.
Protein and fat. Why wouldn't they be?
0 carbohydrates. So simple to prepare. So if you want to have your big breakfast, for example, you could have half a dozen eggs, cut up some lean bacon with it, or not lean bacon, whatever you want.
Whatever. Just bacon.
Bacon. As long as you have the nitrate-free one. That's a preservative, so you can get that. The other foods I'd try and get people into is to drinking coffee or green tea.
Oh, yep.
Because green tea's got
the caffeine and that sort of stuff's
good.
But the
epigallocalcium.
And then you got the EGCGs and everything out of it.
Yep.
So we're talking about herbs and spices, protein, fats are all the most thermogenic. But larger meals, less frequent meals or more frequent meals, we can't quite decide depending on whether we believers in meta-analysis.
If you can, less frequent. because then you get a longer fasting
Sounds
time.
like it, eh? And I think like hitting that calorie surplus per meal seems to be massively important.
It is.
And when we constantly under. So if we're total days under and then every meal is under what the body requires, then no wonder it just puts a handbrake on.
Yeah,
Because you're an idiot. You can't hunt to save your life.
Yeah.
I've got to preserve fat around your internal organs in case you're relying on your hunting ability to keep everyone alive.
And if your body recognises you as a good hunter, you eat a big meal, it'll burn that off as energy, and you'll have the heat energy afterwards, which is great. It's a win-win. So if you can have, I'm just going to say 2 larger meals a day, and what a great
With
thing to do.
big gap in between.
Yeah, well, not a big gap, but 5 or 6 hours. We'll call that a big gap, but it won't.
About 18 hours.
Oh, that's after
fasting,
after the second meal,
meal.
you have a big fast. So try and make that one at night time.
All right, I will, Steve.
So I mean, this is dual, and isn't this unique because you're telling someone to have a large meal when they're trying to eat,
and then lots of fibre and lots of polyphenols because what we want to do is change the microbiome that has been. So when we're building our before photo, when we're getting bigger and we're doing everything wrong and that. We're building up a certain microbiome, gut bugs, that want to keep you that way. Yeah. They're a major cause for rebound weight gain because they will determine your calorie yield and calorie expenditure to a certain degree because of what they want.
Yes.
So while you're going through the body changing, you want to change your microbiome because they will sit there unchanged for like 9 months. And that way they screw with you. As soon as you have a cheat meal, as soon as you think you've had your photo shoot or whatever, and then it'll just put everything back on. So using these unprocessed foods higher full of polyphenols and loading up on the cranberries and the hibiscus and all these rosellas and all these amazing the green teas and resveratrols and everything like that will have that direct immediate effect on metabolism, but the long-term effect on changing your microbiome is what it's a really exciting story from them.
It's amazing, and of course, because you get more calorie yield. And you got to remember, if someone's sitting out there and they go, but what if I want to bulk up? You do the opposite. You eat more meals, larger meals, frequently throughout the day because then
you're calorie surplus.
Yeah, and you'll bulk up, and that's what a lot of the athletes do.
Yeah.
So we've talked about caffeine,
and insulin is so important.
Insulin does
with the bulking up because we've got the growth hormone, and then the insulin makes the IGF-1 that does the actual building.
Absolutely. So boiled rice with
which is why typically fat 30%.
Yeah.
Of your calories.
Yep.
Your protein. Adequate, match to your muscle mass, lean body mass, I should say. Yep. So you're adequate. And then your carbs go down a bit when you're on fat loss and go up a bit when you bulk.
Exactly.
Because we want to manipulate the insulin with the growth hormone, determine whether we want to be getting bigger or smaller.
Absolutely. And if you're trying to bulk, you're usually exercising quite vigorously. So you won't be putting on a lot of fat. You'll be bulking your muscles. Yeah. I mean, our mate Bill Campbell talks about a certain amount of leucine. I think it's 2.4 milligrams.
Well, let's get him on.
Yeah.
No, he's keen. He wants to come back on. So we'll get him. We'll talk about leucine and whey, and we'll talk about all that sort of stuff. All sorts of stuff. So what I love about Bill Campbell is he does not calculate calorie burn and calorie things or requirement using a mathematical equation. He has the machines that will actually calculate your calorie burn, your expenditure, and he doesn't guess. And then he can manipulate from there, and he's got so much data because he runs he works very high up in the ISSN, but he also has the facility that a lot of people do in their studies. Yeah. So a lot of the stuff on the intermittent fasting, the diet breaks, if it fits your macros and all that sort of stuff is all based in his clinic, and he has the best data, and he's seen all of these different papers that have been published with different conclusions and conflicting data, and has that ability to discuss the pros and cons and the reality of how it interacts with humans.
Now, follow us on Instagram, but follow him as well on Instagram.
Follow Bill Campbell too.
Yeah, we both do.
We'll post his stuff. I love his little quizzes. I get most of them wrong.
I love it.
Do you?
Oh, you'll get most of them wrong too, because I'm going, no, that's got to be that one. Oh, it's not.
Oh, no.
Oh, of course. And you can't really argue with the dude because he's quoting. Yeah,
he references everything, which is great. So I think we've covered a lot of crap today.
I think we've got a great plan, yeah. Crap. Yeah.
I mean, we'll write up a blog and put all these links and that. There's some really cool data. I think it's interesting. We're learning so much, I think these little studies that are coming out, a little bit more specific rather than these meta-analyses, because it's really hard to study a population.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, I'm sure we're on a ship of fools half the time. Science is amazing. You've just got to really analyse it and find the good juicy bits out of each paper, and then with an open mind, look for the opposite as well, and then try to understand what the real stuff is.
It's amazing, and I'm excited about having Bill Campbell on. I'm going to ask him, loads of stuff that's just on top of my brain.
What's wrong with me, Steve?
Well,
and Jeff,
we asked you guys, but Bill's. I mean, he's in Florida. He's got a bald head. He looks really intelligent. It's like
because of the bald head.
Yeah, he does.
I mean, I could
really
shave
smart.
my head.
He looks really smart. I
don't think I look smarter with it.
Yeah.
He looks smart because he got a bald head.
He looks smart to me.
It's funny when you just let
Serious
Steve talk,
scientist.
You just let
Serious
Steve talk.
scientist. I love it. And it's
Captain
facts and
Picard,
figures.
you must think is the most smartest person on earth.
Well,
Inconceivable. That guy had bald head. I'm trying to think of other bald smart people.
Captain Spock, was it? No. It was the other guy.
No, Captain Spock. I got the Spock ear, but he had plenty of hair.
Yeah, he did have plenty.
It's even
of hair.
a nice shape in there.
What's his name? I can't remember that. Lots of smart people had
bald head.
Although Albert Einstein had a massive, beautiful head of hair. So that
Tell us
theory
more,
fell
Steve,
down.
about this. While we got you waffling, tell us about other physical features that make people appear smart.
Well, Albert Einstein.
Tell us more about your love affair with Bill Campbell.
Well, I do love him.
I'm a little bit jealous over this.
Man crush, if Beck's listening. But no, I love his. I love
He
the data.
had to put in that disclaimer as if Beck knows something we don't.
I just love the science. I just love it. It's every morning.
All right, well, enough of this crap, Steve.
Yeah,
just tell the people goodbye the way you do it, like we're on Play School.
All right, look, we've had a fun day today. A bit too much fun at times, a bit too much sharing, but, I think this is a massive topic, and I think hopefully we've debunked it and probably raised lots of questions today, haven't we?
Oh, yeah, I don't think you can ever. Science is never settled, but we'll keep sharing the stuff that we find and discuss what the hell we think of it.
And we'll see you guys next week for whatever it is. I can't remember.
Something amazing.
It'll be amazing. Just tune in.
Yeah. All right.
See ya.
Because it was perfect.
God, jeez.
He's strange.
I don't think I could do that. But good on him for
isn't
doing
he?
it.
Wanker.
Yeah, that's my quietly thinking.
What are you?
Yeah.
Anyway, Nibbles, making them play with a devil's joystick.
That's exactly what it says.
Is that what it says? Oh, I actually believed it. Might want to edit this out.
Oh, okay.
No, just your craving for peanuts.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I just couldn't resist, So